So in just about 2 weeks, it'll be over 6 years of selling on Amazon. And in over 6 years and over hundreds of YouTube videos watched, these are the 5 things that people will not tell you and nobody talks about Amazon FBA. So first and foremost, this might seem a little dark, but Amazon FBA is a great business model that allows you to unlock tons of cash flow and a ton of different opportunities in making money online. It allows you a ton of freedom because you can essentially do this from anywhere, and all you need is your laptop and a ton of hard work. But that's the thing, it is a lot harder than everybody seems to make it out to be. And there's a ton of different things that you need to learn, and although it's all out there on YouTube for you to learn, it's going to take a ton of time, effort, energy, failing, and a ton of different things that are going to be involved in you actually starting this business and making money with it long term. When I first got started, we did the method of drop shipping, and it started in my dorm room in college back in 2018 in sometime around October. I started out with 4 unlisted YouTube videos that I paid over $1,000 to learn, and it was basically a ton of trial and error in there. There was no support systems, everybody really shielded a lot of their knowledge, and the YouTube videos available back then compared to now were night and day. Additionally, everybody hid a lot of their info. Nobody would tell you what they're selling. Nobody showed as much as they're showing now. And it was just a lot less competitive, but it was a lot harder to get started and it involved a lot more trial and error. And overall, the business model was completely different than it is now. But fast forward now, 6 years later, and over probably 5, if not more, $1 million sold on Amazon in the past 6 years, I've learned a ton. And here are the 5 things that nobody talks about involved in this space. First and foremost, you cannot make any money and you will not make any money with this business unless you spend money on inventory. You don't need a ton of software. There's not a lot of upfront costs in getting going, but to start this business, you do need to spend money on inventory. Yes, you will make $0 and probably lose money every single month if you're not actively spending money on inventory every single day. The best ways to combat that are to set sourcing goals. I've talked about this before. But if you want to spend X amount on inventory every single month, the best way to do it is to set a sourcing goal where you want to spend that much. So you're going to break it up in how many days that you want to source and actively sit there and knock it up until you actually buy that much each day. If you miss your sourcing goal one day, you're going to need to actively make that up in the other days, and it's going to change the trajectory of your business for the rest of the month. So if you're not spending money, you're not making money, and you're essentially just losing and wasting time. The second thing that nobody talks about with the Amazon FBA business model is that cash flow actually is an issue. Although this business model is actually pretty good with cash flow, and after 6 to 12 months, you can request payouts almost daily from Amazon, which I recommend doing. You will have an issue with cash flow if you open up a warehouse and you have employees and stuff like that, because you have fixed expenses that are going on with this business. And if you're not feeding the beast and pumping more inventory in month over month, those fixed expenses don't change. So that active cost per unit goes up if you're not sending in as much inventory. You still have the same amount of fixed expenses, and overall cash flow becomes an issue because of the fact that basically if you're doing FBA, once an order is placed, that money is not available to be paid out until after that order is delivered, probably around 72 hours after the order is delivered. And there's an active reserve balance. So basically the payout is determined by what is your reserve balance, what is your available balance, and then the difference between. So if your reserve is higher than your available, you're not going to be able to get a payout. And if you have bills coming up, that does become an issue. Now, if you don't have these fixed expenses, which I recommend not getting into them for as long as you humanly can, you will not have as much of an issue with cash flow, but it is a concern, and nobody really talks about that part either. The third thing that nobody talks about is that the fact that Amazon can shut you down at any time if you're not following the rules. Now, there's a ton of different rules that are involved with Amazon's terms of service, but the fact of the matter is, if you follow FBA, you really won't have a problem most of the time, knock on wood. But you can get shut down, and you are at the risk of Amazon's rules pretty much always. So if you're not following the rules, you're not shipping in your inventory the right way, providing the receipts when Amazon asks, responding to different issues, you do need to keep up with things like this. So if you're not actively following and you're doing shady stuff, such as fake labels, inauthentic products, eBay to Amazon flips, you do run the risk of getting shut down at any time and having your funds held. There's different ways to combat this, but if you do follow the rules, you will be fine. But it's something that you want to keep in mind with this business is your entire business is involved and on Amazon. So Amazon has the right to do whatever they want to you. And frankly, they don't really care about us as much as they should. So you do have to keep in mind that you need to make sure that you're following the rules, keeping a good account health, and making sure that you're actively keeping up with anything that's going on with Amazon in terms of account health. Don't worry about it. This isn't a reason to be worried. It's just something that you need to remember and a concept to keep in mind of the fact that you're playing essentially in Amazon's sandbox. And if that's the only way that you're making money, you need to make sure that you're following the rules to a T. Otherwise, you could have an issue long term. So the fourth one is something that a lot of new sellers get all hung up on, and honestly, I feel bad for you because this was so much harder 6 years ago. If you wanted to get ungated in a certain brand like Nike, let's say, it would cost you $3,000 to $5,000 just for a chance to get ungated. Now you can do it in like a week for around $100. It's night and day. So all of you that have issues with ungating, frankly, you're screwed, and you probably won't have a good experience with Amazon long term because it's so easy to get ungated now, but it was so much harder back in the day. If you follow the steps of having 10 sellable units from a verified distributor such as Target or Kohl's or Webster on Store or anything like that, you'll get ungated first or second try. If you can't figure this out, watch some of our videos on ungating, but it really is easy, and it's one of the most common things that we have is people saying, I'm gated for everything I try to sell. If that's the answer and the question that you have, figure out how to do it. Look at one of the hundreds of YouTube videos available how you can get ungated and submit the invoice until you get it right. If you can't figure this out, you're not going to make money with Amazon long term. The final thing is about wholesale, and this one is really, really tough. A lot of you are saying, can you please give me profitable wholesalers? The thing is, wholesalers aren't going to be profitable right off the bat. You have to think about it like this. Number one, a wholesaler or a distributor, they don't care that your items are going on Amazon. They will reject you for being an Amazon seller because they don't want to deal with you. Think about it like this. These wholesalers are selling hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of product every single month. If they have an MOQ of $1,200 and you ask them for 6 discounts before you place your first order, you're wasting your rep's time. These sales reps are not making 10% on their commission. They're probably making like 1 or 2%. So if you're bothering them and being a bad customer and being a pain in the neck, you're kind of ruining it for the rest of us. If you're trying to get into the wholesale model, you better have deeper pockets where you can spend money on inventory just to break even sometimes to get the account open and the relationship built. You should not be asking for discounts in your first order, and you sure as hell should not just be trying to make MOQ. If you continuously do this, you're really going to go in circles and waste your time trying to open up thousands of wholesale accounts saying none of them are profitable. We're ordering from the same distributors. We're willing to actually put in the work to build the relationship long term when you're trying to make 40% ROI on the first order, and that's not how wholesale works. It's harder to start and easier to scale, and you have to get that concept down if you want to make money with that business model long term. So overall, these are the 5 common misconceptions and the 5 things that people really do not tell you or talk about. And after 6 years of being involved in this business, it is really good. It provides a ton of cash flow, a ton of freedom, and a ton of opportunity to make a lot more money than you could in other business models. Additionally, you don't have to risk a ton of capital to actually get started because anything that you're buying for this business, for the most part, is just going to be spent on inventory, which will always have value, and you can sell it somewhere even if the price drops. It's not that risky. But all these little nitty-gritty details that are involved in Amazon and are going to keep being involved because of how competitive it's getting, you need to be able to get past them and make sure that you're not getting stuck on all these little things and willing to build out relationships long-term and actually invest in your business long-term to make money. If you have more questions about Amazon FBA or any of these specific topics that nobody's really talking about, we're more than willing to help you with them and provide a lot of insight. So just click the link down below and join our free Discord community where you can network with both 4, 5, 6, and 7-figure Amazon FBA sellers to start and propel your journey for the long term. That's it for this video, and thank you for your business.